Well, they look for a variety of different things, but probably the number one thing they look for is a track record. And so they've got a number of ways of being able to determine that track record. One is through attending programs like the ones that we run, where we advise our RegTech vendors to say who else they're working with. They also look out there at the investor community and go to their analysts and actually ask them who've done all the hard work usually, and they'll go and ask them about who they're looking to invest in. And then obviously they have their peer group as well that they will lean into to say, hey, what are you guys using? And so track record is the number one thing, but I think that there are some other considerations such as their readiness in terms of IT security, their ISO accreditations, that type of thing. So probably those are two of the main things. There's some other undercurrents though. I've noticed in my time here in the UK, there's a lot of discussion around the maturity of RegTechs and also whether they are simply a group of startup companies that might not be around next year. And I think I'm here to report that most of the RegTechs in our community are all very mature businesses that have institutional customers already, so they should. So institutions should be able to act with some confidence that they will be prepared for the procurement programs and the onboarding that's required. So yeah, it's a really good question. And I think naturally as the industry has evolved, I'm seeing more of a decoupling of RegTech from the group called FinTech, and there's a number of reasons for that. I think 10 years ago, FinTech was a very convenient term to be used for anybody that was serving financial services as a customer. But what we've seen is a broadening out of probably the FinTech community where you might see FinTechs who are indeed competing with banks and so could be considered as disruptors to traditional banking. And indeed, those FinTechs would need to have licenses in their own right. And so to put RegTech in that same category causes a little bit of confusion because RegTech as a group of technologies is actually an enabler. And so both regulated institutions and FinTechs can be customers of RegTech. And RegTech can serve outside of financial services. So government could be a consumer of RegTech solutions, as could be healthcare, education, agriculture, and so the list goes on. So it's much broader than just financial services alone. Yeah, so that's a really great question. And the great challenge for institutions, RegTechs and regulators is actually how to stay apace. And in part, it's why my organisation was founded. And that was to ease the collaboration between all three of those groups so that all of them could stay apace with the rapid change that's around us all in terms of the technology, but indeed the great rate of regulatory change. And they're saying that, regulation is changing every 8 minutes. And so to give you some idea, that's obviously creating a number of challenges. So our organisation tries to get in the middle to smooth the path between all parties so that no one gets ahead of the other, but that we all remain apace. I think that kind of loops back to the first question. Procurement is the number one barrier to innovation. And so that is the ease with which an institution or regulator could actually onboard a new software. And understandably, there are barriers to that, and they're strict barriers for good reasons. However, there is something to be said for more work to be done from both parties to actually enable that. And some of the things that I've heard over the last couple of days here around things like having a very structured process. So an institution having a very structured process for that, and being able to clearly articulate to a software vendor what that process is so that that vendor can be prepared. And my call out to the vendors to address that is to be prepared, do your homework, and be very prepared to fill in those forms and what's required to get you through. So don't go in expecting that it's going to be easy. It will be challenging. And so preparation on both sides is absolutely key. So that's the number one barrier right now to the whole RegTech industry. Well, I think it's going to be a happy marriage. So I don't think one is going to disrupt the other, but both are going to need one another. I mean, if you look at the phenomena that is generative AI, that is now in the hands of the children. Like kids are using it to do their homework and stuff. And so in some ways, I think it's like the advent of the internet all those years ago. And so clearly institutions, regulators are all testing and trialing these solutions right now. We're all using AI in our everyday lives without even realizing that we are. And so the real challenge for RegTechs is whether they're going to adopt and adapt to that in their own product rollout. We saw today that some RegTech solutions are already using generative AI. It needs to be explainable. But I would say that if you're a RegTech and you're not thinking about generative AI, I think you should, and you are deploying AI, you should really be looking at that, because generative AI could be a significant disruptor to the industry if people are able to go to other sources of information that is credible and sourceable and has passed through the compliance framework. So I think it's a great opportunity, but there are also some risks as well. Well, I would say that these are absolutely critical, because we would not have got to the place that we are today without having platforms just like this being held around the world to bring the world together. Because despite the fact that this event today is being held in the UK, and you can tell from my accent I'm from Australia, the challenges are identical. This is a global problem, so the more that we can all lean in as a global community, come together to have the vital discussions and to network and to unpack the opportunity of these fantastic vendors that you've got here today, that's what it's all about. So I think that forums like this are absolutely critical, and long may they be around to serve us.